got goosebumps with this next guest. It's just incredible information. In early 2002, I was put in touch with Dr. Steve-Pieczenik, and I'll give you his bio, very prestigious here in a moment, working under the biggest kingmakers in modern U.S. history, the trifecta, James Baker, George Shultz, Henry Kissinger, and Cyrus Vance, but the big three, from all of our sources, George Shultz, James Baker, way above even Kissinger. That's why you don't even see them out there. And these are the guys that go right to the elite of the world and are their imperial legates, the people that speak for them, that make the deals with China, with Russia. They're the envoys. They're the above government power brokers that are the spokesmen of the collective elite and these top councils. And he was their deputy, all three of them, and Cyrus Vance as well, high-powered, all four of them. And I got him on the show, and he also a CFR fellow at the time. I got him on the show, and he just basically said this whole war on terror is a hoax. And he said the intel is they've got Bin Laden dead on ice, and they're going to roll him out sometime in the future. And I said, ice? He goes, literally. Now, then, about a year later, at an event, I had a well-known Republican, part of the Bush administration, well-known enough that I knew who they were, call me aside at an event and say, listen, this is off record, because I was already known then as being somebody who can keep secrets if it's off record as a journalist. The more secrets you keep, the more secrets you get. That's why we get so many pour in. The MIAC, Homeland Security reports, you name it, we're regular WikiLeaks here. It's just that our info's real, not sprinkled like theirs. Now, Dr. Pieczenik came on, and then Hades broke loose after he came on. He said he was on ice and all this happened. And I looked up Pieczenik. I mean, he was there with the Mujahideen, knew these people. Talk about somebody who's living history. I mean, he's seen so much of it. But then after I talked to one White House official, and then another person well known to me got it from another White House source. I'm just going to leave it at that. So two sources that I actually talked to, one on air, one privately, and then the other through someone I know for decades who was told the same information. And they said, this isn't a rumor, right? And they said, no, he's dead. The intel was, it was a cover story, the kidney stuff. He reportedly was sick from that they went ahead and got rid of him because he was putting those letters out saying, I didn't do it. And they wanted to take his identity and have him say he did. But Dr. Pieczenik can correct me if I'm wrong. And that they did send in special forces. So in a way, it's true. And they killed him and have had him literally frozen. Now they throw him in the ocean. You know, all this stuff comes out. It's just ridiculous. They put out photo 2 days ago that was fake. Now they say another one's coming. So all of this is happening. But a year after I talked to him, these other sources told me the same thing. And then about 6 months later, Madeline-Albrite went on Fox News. We have links to all those articles and videos. In our article, Inside Sources, Bin Laden's corpse has been on ice for nearly a decade. That has all the bibliography there for you. And I'm just prefacing this before we go to Dr. Pieczenik because it's so important, and a lot of folks are tuning in and watching right now, a record audience. That Madeline-Albrite came out and said, the word is he's on ice, use that same term, and they're going to be rolling him out for the election. Then Walter Cronkite, Bohemian Grove, super high level, hanging out with the top people. That's kind of the Democratic wing. They got word that this was going to happen if Bush needed it. Then Teresa Heinz Kerry came out as the proxy for her husband and said, yeah, this is the word. So that scared Bush into not releasing it. By the way, I got threats over this. All sorts of dirty tricks when I was pushing this. And then it receded into history for another 6-7 years. And now it's back exactly the script we were told. So if you're a new listener, or if you're the Washington Post, or the New York Times, or New York Magazine, or LA Times, attacking me over this, actually a few of the articles are actually pretty fair, but some of them are ridiculous, like the New York Magazine, or the Atlantic with Jeff Goldberg. They're attacking us in cartoonish ways. If you're doubting this, look at the history we already have. Benazir Bhutto coming out and saying, look, Bin Laden's dead. Stop using him as a pretext to be in Pakistan. A week later, she's killed. Our media says she hit her head, and then they release video of her being machine gunned by the assassin, and the word from Hamid Gul and others, former head of Pakistani intelligence, is the White House pulled the trigger on her. Now our guests start telling us, and our experts start telling us, there's going to be a move against Pakistan in the last month. Then they catch this CIA operative CNN reports, with the uranium, trying to get it to Mujahideen, to then blame it on the regular army of Pakistan to build the case to snatch their nukes, which will bring China in, folks. This could be World War III. So all of that's happening. You have all these other world leaders that have said this. Now, I'm going to try to now give the floor to our guest, Dr. Steve-Pieczenik, served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of State and Senior Policy Planner under Secretaries Henry Kissinger, Cyrus Vance, George Shultz, talk about knowing where the bodies are buried, and James Baker. Dr. Pieczenik continues to consult the Department of Defense. He received a Council on Foreign Relations Fellowship where he was recruited by Lawrence Eagleburger as Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Management. In the position, he created the Office of Combat Terrorism, the Family Liaison. And it just goes on for a long time. Dr. Pieczenik is the author and creator of 26 New York Times bestsellers. His experiences in government, international crisis management were the basis of Tom Clancy's characters Jack Ryan and Richard Clarke. And the website is steve-pieczenik.com. Pieczenik, P-I-E-C-Z-E-N-I-K. steve-pieczenik.com. We'll get links up at Infowars.com. And we're going to skip this network break coming up. This is so important. Dr. Pieczenik, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to try to sit back, give you the floor to talk about what's currently happened, some of the history involved with these players, Bin Laden, who, going back to the interview that you intimately know, thank you for joining us.
It is a great pleasure and an honor. I want to thank you, Alex. I want to thank what you said. I think very much of what you said is very accurate. I will correct some of the issues that I think we've talked about, but I want to thank your audience for listening. I want to say how important Alex Jones was after 9/11, when I knew very well at that time that the American public was being deceived and was being treated as if we were fools, stupid, ignorant, and cheats. I had hoped at that time, once I was on the Alex Jones show, and I broke ranks with my people at the Council on Foreign Relations. I'm a member also of the Association of Former Intelligence Officers, the National Military Intelligence Association, and I volunteer repeatedly. I volunteered to still work with our military because, number one, I respect our military. Number two, we have sent men and women to wars which have not been clearly defined by civilians who have never been in war, including Clinton, including Bush Jr., in particular, who precipitated the wars into Iraq and Afghanistan, and now Obama. And I had hoped by that time in the past that we would have stopped fooling the American public and stopped creating an incursion into our own country, killing our own people. 9/11 has still not been fully explained, and it is not a conspiracy theory. It has nothing to do with all kinds of secrecy and cabal and any other issue. It has to do with a famous technique in warfare that we call stand down, false flag, deception, and denial. It was done during Pearl Harbor. Alex explained to you yesterday, it was done by Hitler. It was done by LBJ during the war in Vietnam, where we had the Gulf of Tonkin, and he claimed that we had a false flag operation, and we had to shoot the Vietnamese because they shot it. That was wrong. Many men died for that. Many men went to war. And at the same time, we had a stand down and a false flag, which was told to me repeatedly by the people I worked with, including a very famous general that I will not repeat his name, to protect him until I go to a grand jury. Now, what I'm saying today is very important. I was a deputy assistant secretary under Nixon, Ford, and came under special and Carter. I resigned under Carter because I disagreed with the way he handled the hostage situation. I came back under Reagan to take down the Soviet Union, and I came back under Bush Sr. to work on Cambodia. I'm not a career Foreign Service. I'm not a career intelligence officer. I am what every American is. I'm a physician, but I'm an entrepreneur. I create businesses, and I believe in the American way of life, which is very simple. The hope, the faith, the dedication, and the lack of interference in my job, in my pocketbook, and in my speech, and the ability to say what I want to say by the government. That doesn't mean I'm a Tea Party member, I'm a liberal, or I'm a conservative, or I belong to any party. I am strictly an American, and I'm saying this to you as Americans. We have once again been deceived. I thought this would cease and desist by the time Bush Jr. was elected and thrown out. I had asked that Bush Jr. be indicted for war criminals, Cheney be indicted, Rumsfeld, Condoleezza Rice, Steve Hadley. It goes on and on and on. The issue now is we have brought to the forefront at a time when America is in deep peril economically, as Alex Jones has correctly explained to you. We are in deep peril because we are in two wars, of which I have no idea why we're there. And I had warned, even on the Alex Jones show 9 years ago, we will go into Afghanistan and Iraq after the 9/11, and I predicted, and he was correct, Alex Jones, and you see it on your website, that Osama Bin Laden would be dead and had been dead for over 7 months. Not because special forces killed him, but because as a physician I had known that the CIA physicians had treated him, and it was on the intelligence roster that he had Marfan syndrome. Now, many of you can look up on the Internet MARFAN syndrome. It's a disease which is a genetic abnormality which Abraham Lincoln had, and it was the disease of the cataract of the eyes, of the coronary arteries, and what happens in that disease is that you have a very short lifespan. The fact that he had renal dialysis was not an issue of renal stones, which can be cured and is not that serious or life-threatening. But he needed that dialysis machine, so he had to take it with him. It was not an accident that his number two man, El-Zawahiri, was a physician. It is not an accident that most leaders of terrorist organizations around the world are physicians. That's why I know them, because we understand our code of ethics and creed. Osama bin Laden died when we went into Afghanistan. General Tommy Franks had stated very clearly that he had died, and he made a slip. Now, we knew he had already died. By that time, by the time we had already gone into Afghanistan, and in Pakistan, we knew he was dead. So the notion, when I came on the radio show in 2002 with Alex Jones, I said, listen, Osama bin Laden's dead. He's dead. There's no question about it. He had Marfan syndrome. It had nothing to do with special forces. He was used in the same way that 9/11 was used to mobilize the emotions and feelings of the American people in order to go to a war that had to be justified through a narrative that Bush Jr. created and Cheney created about the world of war terrorism. Now, I have been in that world for 30 years. During 30 years, we had never been attacked in America. I repeat it again. The question is not that we are safer now. We're not safer. The issue is we had never been attacked up till 9/11 because Bush Jr., Cheney, Rumsfeld, and a group of other generals who were involved, who I know who they are and they know who I am, were decided that we had to mobilize the public in order to create a war on terrorism, which is an oxymoron. That war on terrorism no longer exists. We went into Iraq. Our military forces, and I have to tell you, I have the greatest respect for our military men, and I'm saying this to you, the generals, the colonels, the majors, and the captains. And I've been lecturing at the War College every year. Be careful of the orders you receive from civilian presidents. I say it again, and listen to me. Be aware of the orders that you receive from civilian presidents like Bush, Clinton, and Obama, particularly presidents who have never served in a war and do not know what the consequences of the war are, and the number of men and women who die bravely for our country and our cause because some civilian has to manipulate his political career at the expense of the American public and at the expense of the bodies and the blood and guts of our warriors who are so important to us.
All right, Doctor. Absolutely, Doctor.